And hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. It's Wednesday. Let's have some fun. It's time for TBD. What does that mean? I don't know. That's what our hosts are going to tell us. And that is why we are joined by Jess Serba and Adrian Warner, as usual. Jess, to you first. Hello. How's it going?
Hey, Gregory. I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I am doing excellent. Thank you very much. And we're also joined by Adrian Warner. Hello, Adrian.
Howdy, Greg. How's it going?
Doing good. Excited for TBD and what we're going to be talking about because I don't know. So, Adrian, what is TBD about this week?
All right. This week we have a very exciting topic that Jess and I are super thrilled about. We spent a lot of time on this one because it's called Taken by Deceivers. Now, Greg, I have to ask you, I'm going to throw you for a little bit of a loop here. Do you happen to use Facebook Marketplace?
I've only tried it a couple of times, so I can't say that I've purchased a lot off of it. Mainly, I look for things that I think were stolen from me and see if they're on there.
All right. Well, this kind of applies. So, as you may or may not be aware, in June, Facebook made a major update to some of their policies. And you think that this might be around privacy or data or advertising, but it's actually about now. Get this, the sale and exchange of historical artifacts and antiquities. Now, specifically, Facebook announced new rules in June that for the first time specifically ban the exchange, the sale, and the purchase of all historical artifacts on its site and on Instagram. Now, why are they putting out this policy? Well, actually, this is because it's part of a huge problem with historical relics being sold in online forums. And this has been going on for quite a while. It's not new specifically to Facebook, but currently COVID has actually exacerbated this problem. And experts have been seeing an increase in online sales of stolen historical artifacts. In fact, the Antiquities, Trafficking, and Heritage Anthropology Project, also known as ATHAR, which investigates and documents the digital underworld, let's say, of trafficking in these looted artifacts, put out a report last year in June of 2019. And they've talked about the rise of trafficked artifacts and cultural artifacts online, and they largely pointed to Facebook as one of the key problems and sources for where this is happening. And in this report, they said, exactly what I just mentioned. It's not anything new, but it's actually exacerbated by the rise of historical media. And since the spread of COVID-19, they've been seeing a rise in cases probably linked to the nicer weather and also the fact that people may have a loss of income during this time in the areas where they're seeing these artifacts pop up. And just one example of a story that broke last May, Interpol, along with Europol and the World Customs Organization, recovered over 19,000 archaeological artifacts as part of a global operation spanning over 103 countries. And they noted that 28% of the recovered artifacts came from online sales. So this is a huge, huge worldwide problem. And Athar specifically has found an uptick on posts in Facebook groups involved in buying and selling these looted objects. So a lot of these are from conflict zones, such as, in the Middle East or in North Africa. And they also show that middlemen are profiting off of this, not just the people selling it and receiving it. People are asking for finder's fees when they're transferring these found or stolen relics. And Facebook knows about this. They've tried to do things about it in the past, taken down groups before, but this specifically is very, very eventful in that they're creating the policy to ban these sales entirely versus just going after the groups and the people who are selling them. Now, what qualifies as an artifact under Facebook's new rules is something I'm going to let Jess get into because it's super interesting, all of the things that have been popping up and what is not going to be allowed on their platform anymore.
Yeah, Adrian. So, right. So, we're going to talk about the policy as well, but what does qualify as an artifact? As far as Facebook is concerned, these are rare items of significant historical, cultural, or scientific value. So this applies to products of archaeological discoveries and excavations, to antiquities such as ancient funerary items, ancient tombstones, ancient coins, engraved seals, etc. Human remains and mummified body parts, and ancient scrolls and manuscripts, etc. So these are typically from conflict zones, right, including Syria, Iraq, Libya, and Yemen. Experts say the value of looted antiquities is hard to determine exactly, but they look to the billions. Beyond that, sales of looted antiquities do help finance terrorism, facilitate money laundering, and are even linked to genocide. So, absolutely something that we need to be looking at, and enforcing more. So let's break down that policy a little bit. They state essentially that they realize the problem is that they have a few different policies which are conflicting and sort of create a gray area around this. One is the coordinating harm and not protecting and promoting crime policy, under which they do prohibit the removal, they do prohibit and remove any sales in which an item is clearly looted. So they do already kind of look to that. But how do you determine, right, that something is already looted? However, their regulated goods policy doesn't prohibit content, that attempts to sell, gift, or exchange general historical items. They say this is because lots of items do hold very significant personal and cultural value to certain communities, and in these communities, they can legally be, sold and acquired across all of these jurisdictions. So now they want to, establish these clear parameters so we know, what should and should not be sold. So in this new policy, essentially, it's kind of like it kind of moves a little bit. There are three kind of options that they're looking to, option one is like kind of staying the same and just making sure no looted items, are being sold. Under this option, items allowed are, Persian rugs, Native American arrowheads, and surprisingly to me, Syrian tombstones. So currently that's fine right now. The next one is kind of moving forward into an escalations only basis. So that's where in which organizations can actually go in and flag, experts in the field can flag specific items that they realize prohibit and that are under, anything that's outside of international law, or items that, don't have proof of ownership. And then the stricter one, which I know that people are, definitely looking toward, is enforcing via scaled review. So basically removing all content related to all sales of historical artifacts, just because it is difficult to kind of understand, what is and what isn't. Their policy deck does mention that the global market of antiquities in general has been described as a bit of a gray market itself. And Facebook says there's a good chance that historical artifacts traded online are either illegal or fake, that 80% of antiquities have sketchy provenances. So, you don't know, it's hard to figure out where, what route they came from. NPR, I found a great article from NPR that does point out that unlike with other banned categories, such as gun sales, Facebook doesn't have an artificial intelligence program in place to help identify this banned activity, nor do they employ experts. So that's something to really be looking at. You can tell I could talk about this for hours, but what I also found most captivating from this NPR story is that these experts find themselves in an incredibly difficult, spot, because they're themselves having to sort of police all of these marketplaces. And the first obstacle is that they have a hard time getting Facebook to even determine that one of these, one of these items has been looted and that it violates the policy. But once they do, instead of the post being preserved, it actually disappears, which completely, prevents any sort of further investigation. These items are literally, disappearing. They quote a Syrian American, archaeologist and professor who actually also is the co-director of Athar, saying, they're not part of documented collections. They've not been excavated properly. They haven't been photographed. They haven't been recorded. And the first time that a human is even laying eyes on these pieces are in a Facebook post. And it's actually, a lot of these pieces are actually being shared in photos from their actual location. So they actually mentioned like loot to order. So once that item is sold, it disappears from where it is and it may never be seen again. And we don't even know where it came from. So as an avid history fan, this is something that like I'm very, on board with, tightening that policy and, preserving, history from kind of being looted from before our eyes.
Well, that is fascinating. Like, I had no idea about all of that. So definitely something to pay attention to. I'm surprised they don't have AI for it too, but now I'm going to be going down that rabbit hole even more after this. So thank you, both of you. That was great. Really fascinating stuff. I know we also have, of course, as part of TBD, Kick Stop It. And so I have to ask, what is it this week?
All right. We've got a great one for you. This week it's called the Pavana Air Shield, and it is a PPE alternative to a mask. Now, I know we're all kind of sick of masks at this point. So the Pavana Air Shield puts out literally a stream of air between you and the outside world. It's a device that you wear on your forehead, and it has a UVC device that purifies the air that goes through that stream as it feeds it into the air shield. Now, I would love to note right here that the term air shield is trademarked. And I'm really unsure how effective this is, although they do really tout that it is extremely effective alternative to wearing a mask for preventing any sort of spread of the virus or other germs. My other concern, though, is that it would dry out my eyeballs. Like if there's a constant stream of air, right? If there's a constant stream of air coming down my face at all times, I feel like that might have other effects that are unpleasant. Anyway, supposedly it's rechargeable. It lasts for 8 hours at a time. It's a little wild.
They also call it.
Yeah, this is interesting. Jess, what do you think?
I was just gonna say they call it air curtain technology. So essentially, you're creating a curtain around yourself. I'm kind of with Adrian. I wear contacts, so any sort of like constant breeze does dry my eyes out. I also want to note too that this Kickstarter is. It's not. They haven't developed a prototype yet. So the funding would actually go to develop the actual prototype itself. So it's conceptual. There's no official prototype that has been tested. So that's something to look at as well. I'm in. If I could wear this around, I might do it.
So you're a kickstart.
I'm kickstarting this one, Greg.
Wow.
Adrian, what about you?
I think I'm a kickstop, and largely because I don't know if anybody's seen a couple episodes of Naruto, but it really just looks like one of those headbands. And I don't know if I could be wearing that on a daily basis.
Do you have to Naruto run like everywhere you go if you're wearing one of these? I think that would have to be the.
Hey, might get faster.
Mine is, right? I'm just thinking it's blowing air down. What happens when you sneeze? Is it just going to like projectile that like double the amount of what it was before? Like I don't know.
That's a really good point, actually. I like that point. I do.
I think I'll probably kick stop it, but there we go. Another kick stop it here. And I know to wrap out TBD, as always, we've got some Charlie Cam.
That's right. He's doing his little dance, and I hope he brings you some joy on this wonderful Wednesday.
What a weirdo.
He does this every day.
I love him.
Charlie Cam. All right, Adrian, Jess, thank you so much. Once again, another awesome edition of TBD. I will talk to both of you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.